I would like to start really quick filing a formal complaint here because I feel that I'm being punished by having to present after these legends. Okay. So Kubevirt-Manager. So my name is Marcelo. I'm now working as a Google Distributed Cloud Specialist at Google. I've been customer engineer, worked at IBM, AWS, and Oracle as well. So just a quick disclaimer, I always leave this slide here. This is all personal opinions and personal code. I'm not representing Google at all here, okay? So what was the idea behind Kubevirt-Manager? So it was to create, a friendly web interface to interact with Kubevirt, create virtual machines, avoid those complex YAML manipulation that we had, reduce the error surface. If you have like an intuitive user interface, it gets easier for you to work, and it doesn't need any command line interface knowledge. It makes it easier for you to work with disks and introduce some advanced features, and also eliminate some Kubernetes concepts for those that doesn't know Kubernetes or are coming from a legacy virtualization. So in 2003, I've started. It was the first version. We had basic functionality: create, manage, and operate. Simple Kubevirt workloads. In 2024, we've started with VM pools, added some auto-scaling, liveness and readiness probes, added some NIC support, VNC console, and that kind of thing. HTTP basic authentication was something that was also requested. And now for today, I've reviewed some of the interfaces. So now we have some dynamic tables. We are not grouping the VMs into nodes anymore. You can sort by any of the fields or the columns on the table. You're also able to search. So I've added a search button as well. And I've grouped the actions into a drop-down menu, so you don't have those lots of icons in the screen anymore. And also another thing that I wanted to show is that we've added a button to live migrate the virtual machine between nodes in the cluster. After that, we've revisited the VM details screen. So now when you click on a VM, you have like a more detailed screen where you can see like metadata, the run strategy and status. You are able to change the strategy. You have details on some of these details comes from the QEMU guest agent. You also have a disk screen. You're now able to hot plug volumes on the VM as well. I've reviewed the logging screen. There was some issues with the reloading of these logs, added some colors as well to make it look nice. I've added serial console. This was something that was requested as well. So now you got xterm.js there, and of course, the VNC implementation. And you've got some buttons on top there to perform some operations on the VM as well. I've also worked a little bit on the VM pool details, so make it look like the VM details as well. So I've added the buttons into this drop-down menu to make the interface cleaner. You have some options to change, like the model of the VM or stuff like that, and made the screen just like we have for a single VM. So you now have some tabs with details for networking, disks. You have liveness probe, readiness probe. and you also have a screen with the instances that are part of that pool, and with some actions that you can perform directly on the instance instead of the pool. The other thing that was changed was the dynamic forms. So now I've implemented the run strategy, and now you can, previously we had like a fixed number of labels that you were able to use. Now we have like a dynamic form, so you can add and remove labels and annotations on the VM. Also, I've added the firmware support. Now you can use Secure Boot as well on the VM. And for the disks, I've also added some dynamic forms. So now you're able to add disks on the fly. And also, I've added support for a boot order. I still need to work a little bit on this to edit it after the VM is created. I've added the bus option, so now you're able to select the bus and the volume mode as well. And I've done the same thing for networking. So now in the networking, you can create multiple interfaces, and you can also select the driver. So this is something that I didn't allow before. So you can now select the driver for the network in the virtual machine. And the same thing, same kind of changes were done to the VM pools as well. So you now have like some dynamic forms, which will help you, create more resources on the VM for disks and networking. And liveness probe and readiness probe has not changed much. And on load balancers, I've also added a dynamic form for ports. So now you can create like a load balancer with multiple ports, and you can select the protocol and stuff like that. Let me see what else I have. Finally, we now have OAuth 2 support here. This was something that was being requested for a long time. So now you can use centralized authentication with the system. Thanks to some folks on the GitHub that tested this for me and helped me validate. I've tested this with Kcloak on my environment, and it is working so far so good. The feedback that I received also was positive here. I've created the documentation portal. So now we have a more user-friendly documentation for this project with steps for, installation and configuration. Another thing that was created was that I've worked over this year was a CI/CD automation. So now we have a CI/CD portal. We have some tasks and some pipelines running on a Tecton for this environment. It's still a lot to go. I'm planning on working on some testing as well. So another notable stuff that I've worked in the past year. So there was some issues around big environments with tons of VMs. It was slow, so I had to work on some performance issues over there. There was some issues regarding using existing data volumes. I've introduced the run strategy field. There was issues with the log reloading that I've mentioned before. There was another issue with the data volume status when it was not defined. It was breaking the screen. Node selector usage, load balancer, and also I've migrated the API that the front end uses from V1 Alpha 3 to V1. This is being tested on Kubevirt 1.6, if I'm not wrong. Lastly, this is more like a marketing, but I've also published another project that I was running here. So my environment, I use bridges and mutus. So I use mutus and bridged interfaces. And using bridged interfaces, I was lacking the ability to create some network policies. So I've created this project to be able to use the multi-network policy on my virtual machines. So it enforces, it enforces firewall rules on secondary networks. It's based on layer 2 filtering. So I use bridge here. So all the VMs that are on the same bridge, they share the same layer 2. So I then filter those the traffic using the MAC address of the destination. It leverages NF tables. We're using multi-network policy, also network attachment definition from multiples, and the rules are dynamic. Okay, so there is an operator that does that. For the future, something that is kind of abandoned and I need to work is the cluster API implementation. It's been a long time I don't work there, and I know that there are some things that are broken there on my implementation that I need to review. I also plan on working on some version control, on how to upgrade the cluster that you already have and the nodes and stuff like that. The CSI implementation also using Kubevirt CSI to provide storage to the user clusters. I have some folks that are working on GitHub for a Helm template for the solution. There is a plan to implement a firewall screen using network policy or multi-network policy as the backend. Work on some improvements in the CI/CD and also on testing. So I plan to focus a lot on testing now. Now that I have a CI/CD, I'm gonna try to automate some of the functional testing of the interface. Thank you to Alexander, Andrew, Miguel also, helped me with the networking part, Roman, and that's it. That's basically it. It's a quick session. If you have any questions. Okay, no questions. So that's it. As I told you, I basically use bridge interfaces on my environment, so that's why I had to develop the multi-network policy controller. And for the clusters, I have some jobs that create some images for predefined nodes. So when you select, like, for example, a version here, and then when you get to the control plane, I have some options that downloads from Kubevirt-Manager website, some pre-baked images. So I need to review some of these pre-baked images to let users create the clusters easily. And also something that I could not get working was the flat car flavor. So I have flat car here, but it's still not working. I think there is something related to the ignition support that I plan to work over the course of the next year. That's what I had.
Thank you, Marcelo. We are just trying to rustle up the next speaker. I just a quick question, largely rhetorical. Are you accepting contributions?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I've got some contributions. So, for example, live migration was a contribution that I received. The Helm template is something that is also being contributed. I don't know Helm. I don't work with Helm, so there's someone that is contributing over there.
That's really great to hear.
Yeah. is getting some traction.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thank you again for for the support you always give me.
You're very welcome.